Tell me the truth. How many of you are going, sloppy wet kiss? Right? I know you're out there. But that's what you get when you get the love of God. You get a big sloppy wet kiss. Some of you are thinking gross. Which, I don't know, maybe that's legitimate. Tonight, we are going to use a story from the book of Matthew, which is a gospel book in the Bible. It's in the New Testament. One of the 4 books that tell us about the stories of Jesus. Tells us all the things that Jesus did while he was here on earth. And this particular portion that we're going to read is from the Sermon on the Mount. It's a pinnacle of Jesus' ministry on earth, and it is a sermon that he gives to lots of people and kind of wraps up the sum of his ministry on earth to the people then, and the church's ministry to the world now, even today. So, what we're going to do, because Scripture has many voices in it, and so we want to be able to hear all of those voices clearly, because when we use our ability to step into the different portions that the Scripture presents, it gives us different perspective on who God is. And that is good news for us. Because the more we see God, the more of God's character we know, the better off we are in life, loving one another and loving the world. So, this story has 3 main characters. Jesus, of course, the goat, and the sheep. You'll find on your worship guide here that you have in the bottom corner, right here, a goat, a sheep, or a Jesus. Now, you are to assume that role. No buying. That's not what I mean. Listen to the story and hear when your role is presented. Feel the emotions that role feels. Experience what that role is feeling in that moment. And try to live into the questions and ideas and things that happen for the sheep, the goat, or the Jesus, whichever you are. Hear the Scripture from that perspective, because you're going to need to remember how it feels to be whoever you may be. So hear this Scripture from Matthew in the 25th chapter, starting at the 31st verse. And remember, you're a sheep, you're a goat, or you're Jesus. When the Son of Man comes, this is Jesus speaking, FYI. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep at his right hand, and the goats at the left. Then the king will come to say to those at his right, the sheep, come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of this world. For I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. And they, the righteous, will answer him. This is you, sheep. You'll say, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And the king will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are in my family, you did it to me. Then he will say to those at his left hand, goats, you are the accursed. Depart from me into the eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. naked, and you did not give me clothing, sick and in prison, and you did not visit me?' Then they will answer, 'Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not take care of you?' Then he will answer them back, 'Truly I tell you, just as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me.'" I hope you heard this portion of Scripture from the roll that you had on your bulletin. And now what I want you to do is to find someone sitting next to you who had a different roll than what you had. And there's going to be some discussion questions right there. Talk about these questions with someone or a couple people who are not like you, who heard the Scripture from a different perspective. You're going to have about 3 or 5 minutes to do this, and then we will move on to our prayers. So find somebody and chat it up.